This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to Fresh Catch tonight for the final debate for Fort Myers Beach Town Council. In case you didn't know, Election Day is Tuesday, and this is the final chance for everybody here to ask questions. If you have questions that you want to ask on Facebook, you can type them in the chat box, and hopefully today is going to be all about the questions from the audience. We'll start it off with one question, but if anybody else has a question, please just come up to the microphone, and I want to ask the four candidates to make sure they keep the microphones close. And the way we're going to do it is we are going to start with Greg today. He's going to do a 1-minute introduction, and then we'll run it down the line this way, and then we'll just kind of stagger every answer from the question, so everybody has a 1-minute chance to respond. So we're going to start it off with Greg on the end with a 1-minute intro. Greg.
Awesome. I'll try not to use the whole minute. I'm Greg Skasny. I'm running for town council, obviously. I'm a about 6-year beach resident with my family. I have a young son who just turned 11, goes to the beach school. My house was destroyed in Hurricane Ian. We're rebuilding. I want to keep my family on this island. A little bit about me. I'm the founder and chief technology officer of a cybersecurity company called Blue Shift Cybersecurity. I hunt hackers for a living. I have an electrical engineering degree from Purdue. And I'm really concerned about the direction our island is going and the rebuild of our island, what we need to do, and which is the reason I put my name in the hat. I want to have a seat at the table. I want to represent the families and the individuals that live on the island. It's a very special place to me. My son only remembers this place. He moved here when he was 4 or 3, and he only remembers this place. He doesn't want to live anywhere else. I gave him the choice after the storm. We can move the Keys. We can go anywhere you want. He's like, Dad, this is my island. This is where I want to be. He loves the community here, and I love the community here, and I want to keep that community alive, which is why I'm here to run for council. And if you haven't voted, I respectfully ask for your vote on November 5th.
Scott?
Well, Ed, thank you for hosting this event tonight, and thank Fresh Catch. Kieran, thank you. My name is Scott Safford. I'm currently on the town council. I was on the LPA for 8 years before that. My mother was a German immigrant. My dad was a World War II vet. So hard work has been an integral part of my life. And as hard as I worked in my life, I want to work that hard for the community. Just like everybody else, I lost a lot in the storm. And whatever I had left over from Ian was in a pod that got skunked by Helene. So I know what we're all going through. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of we're bleeding money. There's no hope for a lot of people. We're just doing that roller coaster, and I want to do everything I can to get us all on the same track moving forward and rebuilding this island.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jim Adderholt. I currently serve as the vice mayor for the town of Fort Myers Beach. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Ed and Kim. Thank you, Fresh Catch Bistro. Thank you for my bride, Brenda, and my campaign manager for 37 years. I bring it doesn't seem like 47. It is 36, 37. So anyways, I bring a unique experience to Fort Myers Beach, to the council role. I served both in DC and Indiana as a senior congressional staffer. I was elected to serve 2 terms in the Indiana General Assembly as a state representative. I served for 4 years as state insurance commissioner. I chaired the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, and I served as chief of staff to the governor for 2.5 years before moving to Fort Myers Beach, where I started a small regulatory consulting business, regulatory compliance consulting business. And I involved myself in the island by joining my condominium board, which is more challenging than most of my political experience, but a blessing. And I also served on the LPA before being on the council. I want to continue my philosophy of limited government through civility.
Jim. I knew that was going to happen.
Common sense and servant leadership. Yeah.
Wait, the first thing Kim said is he's never going to make it in 1 minute. Blame it on her.
I got my auctioneer voice going here.
All right, Dan.
All right, my name is Dan Allers. I currently serve as the mayor of the town of Fort Myers Beach. I don't know how I'm going to follow that because I certainly do not have the pedigree that Mr. Vice Mayor Adel has, but what I do have is what I've always had, and that's the ability to listen, the ability to work hard, to do what I feel is the best thing once you process all the information. And that's the reason I decided to get involved when I first moved here in 2012, whether it be through the chamber or through nonprofits or through the committees that I've served on over the last 10 years. I thought it would be a good fit for me to try to get onto the council, to try to be a problem solver, to try to be a listener. And that's what I ran on then. I feel as though that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to lead by example. If given the opportunity on November 5th, if you're willing to give me your vote, I will try to continue what I've done over the last 4 years. And hopefully 4 years from now, we can sit down and say, we all made the best decisions we could, and we're in a lot better place than we were 8 years ago.
All right, Greg, we'll go right back to you. How high is too high on the beach side of Fort Myers Beach? 1 minute each.
Don't start my timer. The mic is on. How high is too high? That's a subjective question, because it's not always about height. It's about density and intensity and those things that we have to look. So what I will say is, and I've not been shy about this, that if you come with no benefit to the town, you should be able to build what you can by right and nothing more, right? When you want to build more, you should come with significant benefits to the town, not the benefits that we saw. I know they can't talk about it. I'm not elected yet, so I can. Not the benefits that were given for what we just saw, which really upsets me. I've been upset since Monday. We have a beautiful island. We can keep this a beautiful island. We can encourage investment in our island. We don't have to give away egregious, massive structures, intense structures, very dense structures on our island. We don't have to. I'm not afraid that our island is not going to come back. I have zero fear. And I will, when you have to make decisions, you need to make decisions from a point of strength and not from fear. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid for this island rebuilding. I think that we can all come together.
Thank you, Greg.
Understand the good benefits of height when you give back to the town.
Scott?
Well, that's a complicated question, Ed, because there's more to it than just height or density. It's a combination of those two plus intensity. But the first thing you have to look at on all these projects is, what do they have by right? What zoning district are they in? What future land use are they in? And then you start with that. You get into the quid pro quo of public benefit. It's a slippery slope. I think you have to look at every individual project on its own merit. I believe it's really hard to say down on the north end, we're okay with this height, down on the south end, and do it for the entire island. I think you have to look at each location, the neighborhood, how it's going to impact not only the island, but the neighborhood as well.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated question as well, and it is a case-by-case basis. I do think height should not be the first option we go to, but there will be certain situations and unique situations, often rare situations, where the economics make some additional height necessary. So I think we have this kind of friendly tension on the island of folks who want things to be the same and to not veer from the comp plan, and those who want to utilize a provision of the comp plan to have some innovative solutions and allow us to move forward. There's a sense of urgency by many on this island that we need to continue to rebuild. We can't hit an area of stagnation, and we've got to continue to move forward. That doesn't mean give things out willy-nilly. It means be discerning, case by case. Obviously, it depends on the location on the island. I just think we need to be thoughtful about it and discerning, listen to everybody, bring people together, and then try to solve individual problems.
For me, the answer is simple, not more than necessary. I think we've all come to the point where we realize we're never going to get the cottages back. We all understand that things have to be built to the Florida building codes, what they are now, what they were not in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when most of the houses on the island were built. In order to get there, you've got to be able to allow a developer or a homeowner to go through the process. I think our comp plan does that. It has guidelines in there that says you can only build so high. That doesn't mean that's a starting point. That means you have to really show us something that warrants you to have the ability to go higher. As you've seen us evolve since Ian, you've heard people say, stick to the comp plan, stick to the comp plan. Now you're hearing, well, if they need to get an extra story because they had 100 units, we'll just use a round number, and the only way they can get that back is they have to go another story, but they're going to shrink it this way, and they're going to make it a little bit better for the public, whether it's beach access, whatever. I think you have to look at that. Doesn't mean that somebody should get 17 stories. Doesn't mean somebody should get 10 stories. It means that you should look at every single project, apply it to the comp plan, apply it to the land development code, listen to your constituents who are year round, take that input and make an educated decision. Staff will give us the best direction
Thank
they
you,
can,
Dan.
but
Sorry.
they're not the policymakers.
Does anybody have a question from the audience, please? All right, come on down, Sam. Yeah. Go ahead. Tell everybody your name, where you're from, your
Sam
age. I'm kidding about the age.
I'm not as old as Ed. And,
Nobody is.
longtime resident. I had one quick comment and then a question. Aside from my long, lengthy ones, the first comment is everyone wants to try to get that exit lane open. If somehow you could move those cones over and get us off the beach, that would be great. My question is regarding fireworks, and it's coming up, I think, on Thursday again, and we're talking about pyrotechnics possibly. I wanted to ask you if you would even consider an alternative, either drones or laser. I think everybody's trying to do drones now. It celebrates, New Year's is the founding of our town, and we're trying to clean it up. When you're shooting off fireworks, you're polluting the Gulf with toxins, you're polluting the beaches, you're scaring away wildlife. I think I've already written about all these things. Everybody already got an email on it or read it in the Observer. And all I'm asking is during that meeting, if you possibly could look at the alternatives, and if one of you is brave enough, maybe introduce an ordinance that bans all pyrotechnic activity except for Coast Guard and the fire department, the people that might need it.
All right, Scott.
Wow, Sam, that's only one question. I'm impressed. Sam sends us some great emails, and it's always about 10 different questions. So thank you. Absolutely, I would consider it. We have to look at the cost. I think my two dogs would be really happy, but it'd be a cost-benefit thing. But I think a lot of towns are going in that direction. I've seen some fantastic stuff, not in person, but on TV. So I'd be absolutely willing to sit down and discuss.
Open-minded to it, Sam. To be fully transparent, I love fireworks, and I love watching fireworks. I love the fact that we have them on the 4th of July, and I love the fact that we have them on New Year's Eve. I think they're great for the island. I think they're great for just celebrating our country, celebrating New Year's Eve, and great for economic development. It just makes Fort Myers Beach a fun place to be. If the drone technology gets to the point where it can replace fireworks, traditional fireworks, absolutely open to it. And again, obviously, cost comes into play. We've had some awesome people over the years raise money for the fireworks. Most of it's been privately funded. I think it's been a great public-private partnership, but certainly if there's new technology out there that could really be cool and interesting, certainly open to considering it.
Yeah, I think we're fortunate, Sam, that we live in an era now where technology is changing every single day. Every minute, every hour, it's changing. We've all seen YouTube videos of the drone shows, the laser light shows. There's a lot of different things that we could do out there. Obviously, cost is the number one thing. How much does it cost compared to the other one? When you include cleanup, like you said, of all the debris that falls from all the boom. I'm old school. I love the sound. I love the sights. I love the smell. But it doesn't mean that you can't do that. I've actually seen a couple of videos where they've mimicked the sound of the fireworks when the lights go off through the drone. So I think we're getting there. I don't have any idea what it costs, but I'm certainly open to looking to see if that's the way to go in the future.
So I will also say that I'm old school and I enjoy watching fireworks. I do. But your point is well taken, and it really does come down to cost and if the technology's there. You're not going to stop everybody on the beach from. Fireworks are illegal on Fort Myers Beach, but I go to the beach every 4th of July and every New Year's Eve, and there's fireworks all up and down the beach, all the way to Naples, on Sanibel. You see them all over the place. So I think it could be a good start. I'm a technology guy. I think the drone shows. I've seen. I've not been to one. I've seen videos. They're very impressive. There's some really cool things you can do. So I wouldn't mind entertaining looking into that. But I'm personally an old school firework guy. But your concerns are very well taken. Yeah, it is polluting. I have dogs. They don't like the fireworks either. So there are compelling reasons to look at it both ways. I think we should get the opinion of most residents on the island to see where we go with that.
All right, we have a question from our Facebook audience. We start with Jim. Should e-bikes be allowed on the beach and on the sidewalks?
I think, there we go. I think, boys, it'll be tough to do that in a minute, but I'll try. I think at a minimum, we should have a test period on the sidewalks first. I have some serious concerns about the beach. I think the mayor just came up with an idea the other day about running transportation along the beach that was very interesting, that would be a little bit more environmentally friendly and still allow us to use the beach as a transportation hub. He can talk about that, but it was a clever idea. But I do think if we're going to do anything on the sidewalks, I think we need to have some kind of proviso in there that if you're on a bike, electric or even traditional bike, if you're going to pass a pedestrian who's walking, some folks are walking with their dog on a leash, they've got kids with them. The worst thing about that is when you come up behind somebody and just scare the living daylights out of them. And it's very disheartening for folks who are walking and using the sidewalks as pedestrian place. But I am open to using the bikes. I know the technology is changing. I'm with that. I'm sort of old school. I use a traditional bike, always will. But there are some people that have to use these new bikes, and some people that need them for speed and for work. So I'm open to the concept. I just like to have a proviso in there that creates a dynamic where we show respect for the pedestrians who are on the sidewalk.
Well, I've never been one to try to make policies based on a term I think that the vice mayor has used, bad apples or knuckleheads. And I think that's what we look at with the bikes. We have a lot of people who are very respectful, who know how to ride their electric bikes. They need the assistance to be able to ride on the island or on the beach with their electric bikes. I think giving it a try can't hurt. The knuckleheads or the bad apples that are going to still do what they're going to do are going to do it whether we allow them to do it or that we don't allow them to do it. So to penalize the entire population for a few knuckleheads or bad apples, to me, doesn't make good policy. I think you have to try something. If it doesn't work, you have to admit it didn't work, and then you can change it again. But to not try it is putting yourself into a vacuum because a couple people don't want to follow the rules.
So I will preface this that I ride an electric bike, and I ride it on the sidewalk. I know I'm not supposed to. I bought my electric bike about 3 years ago. I have 4,000 miles, island miles on my electric bike. That's 4,000 miles that my big truck was not sitting in traffic and congesting the island. I've come up behind people on my bike. I'm very courteous. I beat my ding my little bell. I'm coming up on your left. I don't want to frighten you. I've never had an issue ever, and I've had tons of issues riding in the bike lane. I'm sorry, but people on the road, especially during season, they're inebriated. I can smell marijuana. I've been hit, or come close to being hit several times just recently going down the road. It's very dangerous in the bike lane, especially when traffic is stopped. People don't pay attention. They're on their phones. They're drifting over. I usually have my son in the back of the bike because I can't get him to school or to wherever at Bay Oaks, wherever he was going, because traffic's backed up. So I use our electric bikes. There's nothing wrong. Listen, you can't make policy based on a few bad apples. I think you should be able to ride them on the beach. I think you should be able to ride them on the sidewalk, anywhere bikes go. The beach is humongous. We have a massive beach, right? And it's just going to get bigger with the renourishment. There's no reason to stop that. So Scott? I support it.
Yeah, yes, I'm with these guys. I think we should try it, but I think the bad apples, the way to stop them is to penalize them. So if we come up with a way where somebody's a bad apple, the penalty's outrageous. That might get them to stop the bad behavior. And I'd be more than willing to, try this. I agree with Greg. It's people just don't pay attention, and the problem is, especially when you're making a right-hand turn and you're looking left, very rarely are you seeing somebody out the right sides. I've seen bikes hit a ton like that, and it's scary. So if we could make it one direction with traffic and penalize the bad behavior, I think we should try it.
Any questions? Tom, come on down. Tom Torgerson. Where's Mike?
This is a question that probably relates as much as anything to the downtown district. And it's been, since incorporation, really concepted as a pedestrian-friendly, walkable district. And obviously, I have a business there, and we live there, and there's many businesses there. Fewer than there was a while ago, but they'll all come back. My question is, to be able to sustain that or achieve that, if the goal remains the same, can we revisit, seawalls and coastal protection systems and boardwalks to really support and sustain that on a long-term basis? We know that we can build in a manner that will withstand, the structures will withstand major forces. But yet, to make the grade level structures comfortable for pedestrian interaction takes a lot of soft touches. And those are not durable to the punishment of the storms. And a little more help. It's all about where do we go, I guess is my question. Do we elevate everything? And I'm talking specifically in the downtown district. And I'm originally from Minnesota, and they've got the biggest skyway system in the country. And it's pretty interesting. And it's really actually very nice, but they have, polar vortexes and some pretty significant weather that's routine and predictable. We have these events, and I don't know that we want to go to the extreme of building at this level and having the whole matrix of the downtown district at this level. Maybe we do, and maybe I'm getting kind of too far out there in this question. But what's your vision of the downtown district as to how we can either sustain this pedestrian-friendly, walkable district or abandon it and move to what we're going to be in the future?
All right. Thank you, Tom. You're always good at keeping it right to the point and making the question short. Dan, you're up first.
I'll do my best to try to talk about that. I think we're at the point where we have to although we've learned the berms do what they're supposed to do and they're effective, but they're only effective to a point. I think we've come to a time where we have to we've seen the seawalls that have been exposed from the last two storms. They've done what they're supposed to do. They break the wave action. The coastal protection system, I think that Tom's referring to, it creates a walkability, it creates a bikeability that we're trying to do, but it also creates a protection, not just for the beachfront homes, but for all the businesses in the property in the downtown district, as well as the side streets. What we have seen is when there's nothing there, the water goes down the side streets, cause more damage. If we could get something to protect, be that first line of defense, it does one of two things. One, it protects our property. Yes, you're going to get some flooding potentially, but you're not going to get that velocity and the destruction. And two, it allows you to build back, I think to Tom's point, at grade level. You can dry flood-proof things. You can keep that walkability. You can keep buildings down. You can do what I think we want to try to do, but it starts with protecting the coast. And I think now there's a lot of federal and state money out there to be able to potentially make that a reality. And this council has wanted to be ones that we want to be first. We want to show people we want to be innovative, that we want to come up with good ideas that other people can look back and say, look what Fort Myers Beach did.
Greg?
Am I on? Good. Yeah. I would be absolutely for looking into anything that will help make our town more resilient. I don't have any empirical data on coastal protection systems. I know they won't protect from storm surge, but anything we can do to make it so when these events happen, and it's unfortunate that we've had so many, but they're going to happen again. Things that can have us come back quickly and again, protect those structures. If it can allow us to have the walkability, such an important piece of what our downtown district is. And that's when I came here, that's all I would do is just go walk around Times Square and up and down Old San Carlos. And I think we can help to promote that. If there's systems out there and there's grants and federal funding available to do that, to help us, again, be more resilient as a town, 100% in.
I am been a big fan of the coastal protection system since Tom brought it up 7, 8, 9 years ago. My vision for the downtown district is walkability. As Margaritaville being the center, shops and restaurants all the way around Times Square with the piers as an anchor, possibly another anchor down by Bayside Park. So I want to encourage walkability and bikeability. I think the one thing we need to look at, and we all experience this, is when we take that right turn down on Crescent Street, there's water there. We have to look at a way of possibly raising the seawalls along Crescent Street. I hope there's federal money available, but we have to look at innovative new ideas to solve this problem, because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, we've got 60 seconds to address a very complex question, but I'm very open to the coastal protection system. One of the things that I'd like to focus on is if you come up with an effective coastal protection system, you really have a transformative transportation impact as well, because as everybody knows, you lose the bike lanes about Red Coconut down as you get to on your way to Times Square, making it just, and the sidewalks also narrow as well. So it really makes a congestion dynamic, not only from a traffic standpoint, from a pedestrian and bike standpoint. If we could utilize that new coastal protection system in a way that enhances transportation. I love the boardwalk concept. I love any way we can manifest a shift or a paradigm shift to move folks off Estero Boulevard and move them closer to some sort of a boardwalk dynamic. I'm wide open to the concept. I think the possibilities are endless.
Anybody in the audience right yet? All right. Let's see, we start with Greg. Should trailers, specifically food trailers that cannot be hauled off by a pickup truck, be allowed on the beach after November 18th?
That's not up to us, unfortunately. That's the federal government. So
if it was up to you all,
well, again, to me, I like common sense. So I think like what Tom from Loyola did, he has a plan. He's able to get his stuff off in a reasonable period of time. If there's a name storm coming, I like innovative solutions like that. And I wish our federal government was as innovative as some of our entrepreneurs here. But there has to be a time, there has to be a limit at some point, right? We can't allow temporary trailers forever. We need to get brick and mortar investment back. We need to get people moving on getting back into big buildings. But again, I adamantly disagree with FEMA having to get people out by November 18th. It's the end of hurricane season. It's the beginning of our season. It's a time that some of our local businesses can make money. It's an arbitrary date picked by them for whatever reason they want to do that. And it's unfortunate. So again, I would support them for a certain period of time until we can get some brick and mortar back. But you need to have a plan to get them off the island. During the last storm, there were so many things left on the island. I have a huge issue with containers and construction equipment and all that stuff. It was just unbelievable.
Scott?
I think we should, I think we should be more worried about the dumpsters than the food trucks. Greg's right. It's not up to us. If it were up to me, I think the plan we had in place last year when we said, okay, you can have your food truck or your mobile trailer, whatever, but you have to have a plan to build brick and mortar and move forward. And that date was set by the state. It was September 28th of next year. But FEMA keeps moving the goalposts. And it's just not fair to the local businesses. And November 18th is a ridiculous date. I can't agree more with Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything that's been said. I think for FEMA to set November 18th at the end of hurricane season is the date when we're approaching the most lucrative business season for some of these food trucks and vendors. But for them to have a sort of a practical mindset, I understand what they're trying to accomplish. We did put forth a very good proposal that allowed people to stay if they put forth a serious proposal to build a brick and mortar, and that seemed fair to me. But FEMA continues to intervene in ways that are illogical. Their motives may be good, but completely impractical and illogical. And hopefully we'll have a little bit more direction on November 18th. Hopefully it'll be a good outcome.
Yeah, don't even get me started on FEMA. But trailers were allowed to be on the island for a specific purpose. It was allowed to get people back to work. It was allowed to businesses to start making their money. I think we all agree the November 18th deadline doesn't make any sense in relation to hurricane season, but I completely understand where they're coming from with repetitive losses. If we truly want to make our moves forward, trailers in the downtown district doesn't make a lot of sense in the long term. Doesn't mean I don't support them, but they know, we've talked about it at council, September is going to be the deadline, or June 1st, whichever, probably June 1st because it comes into the next hurricane season. Everybody's okay with that. We're still going to fight to try to get FEMA to come around to see us. Maybe after, November 18th, they will. We can be hopeful, but we're certainly trying. The bigger concern is last 2 weeks, I've been working with staff to make sure we can get policy decisions in place to get the dumpsters, to get the porta potties, to get all the things that right now isn't in our code to have any teeth to get people if they decide to leave the dumpsters or the Connex boxes or the things that can't be moved easily. So
Thanks,
to me,
Dan.
that's important.
Thank you. Question? Okay, come on down. Appreciate it. Audience questions, please.
All right. Ron Bennett, been here about 10 years now. I agree with the porta potties, man. Those things tipped over, and porta potties got to go. But I'm as a retired fire guy. One of my questions, my question to you guys is your guys' stance on the try that just happened here a while back, the dissolving or the incorporation of Fort Myers Beach Fire with, they said Bonita Springs, then Iona and all that kind of stuff. So I want to know where, as my council members, where you guys sit on if you would be for or against the dissolving of Fort Myers Beach and joining with somebody else. And with that being said, also, if there's relationships with the guy who tried, and I can never remember the state senator's name.
Adam Botana.
Yeah. I mean, the way he did that, trying to just push that legislation through to just automatically dissolve it with nobody in it, I thought was so wrong. So my question is where you stand in relationships with that state senator.
And for anybody that doesn't know, just a quick history, there's a study being done to see whether or not Fort Myers Beach Fire District merges with, I think it's Iona McGregor now. It started out of Penita, but it's Iona McGregor. And I think the study is going to cost $100,000 of the fire district's money. Is that right, Karen? About $100,000? And it's a year-long study. And for anybody that doesn't know, the fire district, it's its own district. It's not part of the Fort Myers Beach town council or town. So Scott, you're first. Oops, sorry.
Test. I am 100% against that proposal. The mosquito control district, maybe, but I'm as a taxpayer, I'm upset now that we're already $100,000 in the hole, and it's just absurd. When the state gets involved in local government, it's a problem. They're trying to get involved with short-term rentals. They're trying to do so many things. And really, what's next? Is the library next? I mean, come on. These guys, I saw how they work during this hurricane. They're professional. They're local. They know us. We have to keep Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District together, not combine somewhere else.
Jim? I think it's a great question. I think, it puts the council in a little bit of a challenging situation because the council, I think, Mayor, we maybe 6 months to a year ago, we wrote a letter opposing the change and did it respectfully. We've got a state representative who feels strongly about finding economies in local government and duplication anywhere he can. He's also a state representative who's also delivered for Fort Myers Beach and really helped us at the legislature. I mean, with the mayor's good work and the town staff and all the help we've had from our legislative delegation, we've received over $50 million in grants from the legislature. So we want to respectfully push back, but we want to do so in a way that, well, let's take a look at this study, see if any economies can be found. Maybe it's not a full merger. Maybe there's little pieces of it that can be done. I'm open-minded. I don't like the concept. I love the fact that we have our own, particularly our emergency response and ambulance service. I think it's very unique to Fort Myers Beach being a barrier island. So I'm hoping we stay the same, but at the same time, trying to keep an open mind, trying to keep that relationship with our state legislator positive, who's done a lot to help our community as well. So it's a tough one. Yep.
Dan?
Well, I certainly don't necessarily agree with the avenue in which he went about doing it. I don't disagree with the concept, though. If you look at what he's trying to do, he's trying to look at, we have, I think it's 20 districts or 20 chiefs in Lee County. Is it possible to potentially merge them, not lose services, save taxpayer money? I think that was his ultimate goal. I can't speak for him, but I don't agree with how we got to there. I think the fire chief, and speaking to him, he's not opposed to looking at it. If there's ways to save money, he's certainly not going to sit up here and say we shouldn't save taxpayer money. Until we get that survey back, do I want to see him merge? If it's not necessary, absolutely not. If it's a significant increase and we don't lose what we've had, the history we just heard about when they were breaking ground, as long as we don't lose the history, we don't lose our firemen, we don't lose our fire stations, to me, and they keep their Fort Myers Beach tag, but it saves the taxpayers a significant amount of money, I think as a policymaker, you have to look at that. It's not a popular answer, but it's the truth. I think anybody sitting out here, if we said we're looking at something that could potentially save you millions and we don't do it simply because of a name on a badge, I think we'd be doing you a disservice.
Great.
I could not agree with Dan more. My grandpa was a battalion chief firefighter. So I have a soft spot for firefighters, but all elected officials need to be good stewards of tax dollars. I agree with Dan that I don't particularly agree with the way that was initially approached, but there's nothing wrong at looking at a study of making government more efficient. Government never gets cheaper, right? So if there's ways we can look to make government more affordable, not losing services, again, not losing the name. Yeah, I like having our local firefighters here. They've done a great job in the past storm. I commended them. They did it very well. But we should always be looking at more efficient ways for government to run. And we shouldn't, just because it's very emotional, because you don't want to take my fire department. And I understand that. I felt the same way in the beginning, but I don't see anything wrong with doing a study to see if we can have more efficiencies to save taxpayer money. Big government is not always good government.
All right. And if anybody wants to talk any more about the fire commission, Kieran, it'll be on the fire commission board after Tuesday's election. Is that right, Kieran? No, not today. Today's Robin, come on down. I know you got a question. Any questions from the Facebook audience? Just type them in and we'll pass them along.
Robin Capella, resident Bay Beach Lane. So unfortunately, this is more for the two of you, but there's been a lot of talk, especially on social media, that the town council, excluding Dan, is more about the big guys making tons of money and not giving a darn about people just wanting to rebuild. And it's all about, we need liquor stores and nail salons and all that, where we have a ton of retail space that isn't being used. So the question is, how do you address that you're all about the big guys making huge amounts of money, building I know I'm not supposed to talk about, but it's 255 feet. That's 57 feet over anything we have here. So my question is, how do you tell people, how do you address that when they say you're all about the big guys and you don't give a darn about families or residents? I've sent you all notes asking what your vision for this town is, and I've never heard back. That's not true, Scott. I heard from you and I appreciate that. But I really want to understand how you address those people.
Thank you, Robin. And just to stay in order, Jim is first.
Well, Robin, I'd like to just look at how I spent my time since Hurricane Ian. I spent a lot of time early on helping the post office get temporary trailers on the island. Post office told everybody to drive to the airport. It was an hour drive. Nobody had a vehicle. They were all destroyed. I spent a lot of time helping the school. I was the council liaison to the ad hoc committee to save the beach school. We signed a 4-year deal to sign the beach school. I spent a lot of time helping CVS Pharmacy get open. I spent a lot of time helping the 7-Eleven on the south end get open. I spent a lot of time helping Santini Plaza get help from FPL, get through permitting help. That has been my focus, to get the basic blocking and tackling of some of these essential services going to Fort Myers Beach. So all I can say is that we have to spend time and focus on all elements of post-Ian rebuild. And I have spent the vast majority of my time focusing on those blocking and tackling issues that really make an impact on everyday residents of Fort Myers Beach. Do I have to consider the other issues that come before us? Absolutely, but it certainly hasn't taken a preponderance of my time.
Well, I think if you just look at how I've been voting, I'm all about trying to make sure that whatever it's a big developer, small developer, that the project makes sense, not just for the developer financially or however they want to put it, but it also has to make sense for the residents that live here, those that built the town, those that are going to continue to build the town, and those that are going to be building the town after we're gone. In order to do that, you've got to look at everything. You've got to be able to talk to them. You got to have an open mind. You've got to be willing to look at things. As I said at the beginning, no more than necessary. You vote the way you vote because you feel it's either a good, first thing, again, as I said, you got to be a good community partner. If you're not a good community partner, it doesn't matter what the building looks like, because once it's built, they're going to be gone. They're not going to be here. Are they involved during the process, before the process, after the process? That's a consideration to me to look at as a benefit to the community. Are they going to be there to support us when we need them the most? But it keeps going back. I know people hate to say it, but every project is completely different. Some projects make sense. Some projects don't. I'm not a firm believer in you just say no simply because something puts something on paper. No negotiation ever should go that way.
Thanks, Dan. Sorry.
Oh, I got long-winded.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you did. Greg, you're up.
Okay, I'm up. Obviously, I don't have a vote, but I have not been shy about where I stand on large development. And I know they can't talk about it, and it's unfair, but I'm still going to say it. What happened last Monday is a shame. It was done because they're afraid. I can't say it enough. They're afraid the island won't build back. So we're going to accept what was dealt to us with no negotiation and basically zero benefit to us residents. These are massive structures that are going in. We want to fight for the beach school. Well, guess what? When those kids come out of school, guess what they're going to see? They're going to see 2 concrete behemoths coming out of that school, smack dab in the middle of our island. I think we deserve better. And I'm going to preface this that I've talked many times with Matt from Seagate. He's a wonderful guy. He reaches out for my opinion. He doesn't have to do that. I think he will be a good community partner. I think there's something that can be done there. I think what they're proposing is egregious and offensive. And what we got for it
Thank
was
you,
a
Greg.
porta potty and a water fountain.
Just so everybody in the audience knows, the 3 council members are not allowed to talk about the Seagate project specifically because they still have one more vote to go on the 18th. So that's why you won't hear them talk about it, I'm guessing. Scott, you're up.
Well, Robin, we had a conversation. And I don't know how I went from owning the smallest hotel in Florida, maybe the United States, to being big development's best friend. The first thing my wife and I did with our lot was we cleaned it and we got the goods opened. I want small businesses on the island. I'd rather see 40 or 50 boutique hotels than 3 huge resorts. The reason the retail places aren't open is a chicken egg thing. We need residents back on this beach as quickly as possible. These condos got to get open. We need houses built. We need shovels in the ground. That's not big development. We need people so that these small business owners can open and not lose their butts in the summertime. So in order for them to survive, they're going to make money during season, but off season, they need us. So we need people back on the island. We need houses. We need residents. We need people in the schools.
All right. We have another question from the live audience here at Fresh Catch. Thank you to folks at Fresh Catch for hosting us tonight. We appreciate it. We were going to do this a few weeks ago, and then we had a little hurricane come through. Sir, you're up.
Thank you. And thank you all for putting your name on the ballot. I know that's not easy and stepping forward. And this is what democracy looks like. This is a great night. It's a Friday night. All these people come out to listen, and you're all professional in the way you're addressing the questions. I really appreciate. I want to talk about the budget. I want to talk about what you guys envision for your budget going forward. What would you cut? How do you create revenue? And I'm in favor of the red coconut plan. I think it's a great plan. But how would you envision that? And I was taught over the years, if you see a problem, you should have the discussion about that problem, but also you should actually bring up a solution. If not, you're just complaining. So what is some of the problems? What is the solutions with the budget going forward? But how are you going to create that revenue, and what would you cut in your next budget?
Dan, you're first this time.
Well, I think what you've seen since Ian is we've reduced our size of our employees, which has brought down the budget. We brought in Joe Onsick, who is our finance director, who has done an outstanding job taking what was, for lack of no pun intended, a dumpster fire, and has turned it into something that we can be proud of. It's very transparent. People can see exactly what it is. We saw last year the property values increased, but if you've looked at your trim notice, your home value, the actual home part of it has gone down. So we've seen an increase in the millage in that. I think it's important that people understand that don't understand or maybe new to the island, 6% of your taxes actually come to the town of Fort Myers Beach. 6%. In the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at developments and you're looking at new properties come online, how do you increase that? Where did he go? I didn't see him. How do you make that so that you're going to survive, right? We're not always going to have appropriations coming in from the state. Being able to build back, getting shovels in the ground, getting residents back on the island, that's what's going to be important. Getting businesses here is getting tax revenue for the TDC funding. That's important. I think we're on the path to do that. Doesn't mean we have to give up the farm to get there. I think we've got the right team in place to be able to continue to move forward with the momentum that we've had since Ian. Let's see what next year's tax comes out and just continue to move forward with the
Thank you, Dan.
we made. Oh, God.
All right.
A minute is tough.
Are you impersonating Jim tonight for some reason? Greg, you're up.
Okay. Yeah. And like Dan said, we get 6% of property tax revenue. Bed tax goes to the county for tourist development. Sales tax goes to the state, right? So we work with 6% of property tax revenue. If you want to increase our budget, we need to get shovels in the ground for homes. We need more homes. Now we're doing a good job. There's 214 or 215 permits that are open right now. But we need more homes built back. That's what helps build back our reliable tax base. We have to look at line by line in the budget what we have. Again, I'm a big believer in efficient government. I do sit on the library board. I was a huge proponent of lowering our millage rate for the library board down to the rollback rate, which means exactly 0 increases to the library. Went line by line of what we could cut. And again, the library hasn't been open, so they don't have a whole lot of expenses. Really wasn't all that hard. For the town, is the same way. We need to go through the budget, understand how we can operate government efficiently, but still keep the services to our constituents at a very high level and a very high quality. which is something that I do every day with my business. So I'm well suited for the challenge.
I'm actually the council rep for the audit committee, and how we did what we did without raising taxes and actually increasing our reserves is absolutely remarkable. It's almost unbelievable. So to answer your question, I don't think there's much more that we can cut. We can always look, but I'm afraid of government getting bloated and complacent. So I think when we have big reserves, let's hire another guy. Let's do that. I think we need to be vigilant, run lean and mean, and increase our reserves, because as we saw with these last two storms, we need more than $3 million. They keep throwing the number out there, 5. I think it should be 10, because if we get clobbered again and again and again, we're going to need those reserves.
Yeah, just to answer your question specifically, one of the things that's evolved with our new town governance team is we used to have a lot of people that instead of town employees, they were hired as high-paid consultants. We've brought that in-house. We brought some of the permitting in-house, and there's economies there. Plus, it's better service because these are people that are much more closer to the people they're serving. So I think that's been helpful. I think Matt Caldwell, our Lee County appraiser, has kind of given the roadmap to our financial recovery. Fort Myers Beach, unlike Sanibel, that's remained relatively stagnant, has regained 50% of its property values. And he thinks in the next year or so, we'll be back to almost pre-Ian numbers. And obviously with the homes that are being rebuilt, they're larger. People have lost their homestead tax credit. So there are new folks coming in, starting fresh without that homestead discount. So I think naturally, according to Matt Caldwell, who's really an expert in this field, he thinks financially we're going to be in very good shape, particularly with the growth and the rebuilding that's going on. So I'm very optimistic about the future of Fort Myers Beach.
All righty. Please be as specific as possible. What are your plans to stop hurricanes from coming to Fort Myers Beach? No, I'm just kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Ellen Vaughn. Come on down, Ellen.
And you're the only person that calls me whatever. I want to give. Oh, so my name is You've already been, so yeah, whatever. My name is Ellen. All right. So I would like to give you each the opportunity to talk about your vision, because you are pulled in so many directions. You have people that want you to do this, people want you to do that, people who criticize you for this, people who criticize you for that. If you just tell me what you're thinking about, how you want to see us move forward.
All right, Greg,
no small question.
Greg, you are first.
All right, Ellen, I'll first say I love your dresses. Every time I see your dresses, they're so colorful. I just love it. And again, it's something I've not been shy about. I came to this island on vacation. I fell in love and I moved here. I want to see more people be able to do that. I want to be able to see, I do want to see development on the island. Like, I'm not anti-development, which people like to say. I do want to see common sense development. I think we can do that. I think we can go project by project and have nice development on the island, but we do need to focus on the residential side too. The residents are what make our community, and we have a great community here. Even as much as we might disagree and bicker, if you're an islander, you're an islander. And it doesn't matter if I had a knockdown, drag out discussion with you one day. If you call me up and need help, I'll be there in a second. And that's just how people on the island are. There's people who I adamantly disagreed with in COVID, and we're still friends after the storm changed everything. So I would like that vision to continue. I don't want to see overdevelopment on the island. I don't want to see this a place where no one wants to live because we're a concrete jungle and we're packed 365 days a year, just like Clearwater Beach is. And it wasn't that way 20 years ago. I spent a lot of time there. We're going to head in that direction if we're not careful. It's a very popular place to be. It's beautiful. You all know that.
Thank you,
That's why
Greg.
I live here.
Scott?
Well, to answer your question, Ellen, I don't want to be Clearwater, but I don't want to be Mexico Beach. I think we're on the right path. We're going to be talking about our 10-year plan. And I think everybody knows for sure that we want to be resilient. We want to be green. We want to be sustainable. I still like the node concept. And the node concept is the little villages spread out throughout the island where there's a little bit of commerce. So we're not driving. We're not going over the bridge, creating traffic. So my idea, and this is just my own, and I think when we work on this 10-year plan, it's going to be everybody. But I like that node concept where you can bike or walk to get what you need. And you're not going over the bridge. You're staying on the island. So that's kind of my vision where we're going.
Well, in 60 seconds, it's tough to do this, Ellen, but I tell you, I think what I'd like to see conceptually is is what we saw immediately after Ian. We saw some of this similar dynamic after red tide, blue-green algae in 2018, where people from the left, right, middle philosophically got together and we all rallied to support massive infusions of capital to help solve the clean water challenge. We're still in that process. Record funds have been raised. I played a small role in that process as a councilman my first term, but I also, Brent and I were on the island for the storm. We saw firsthand the destruction, but we also had a front row seat to the kindness, the grace, the generosity, the neighbor helping neighbor dynamic, people coming together in neighborhoods that didn't even know each other before the storm. And that unity of spirit, even though we're going to differ on a number of these developments going forward, my vision is to replace what we had in a way that's sort of Postian, reasonable, but also do so with a sense of urgency, but also with a respect for all viewpoints involved, and try to come to some consensus, bring people together, and solve problems.
Well, as much as we were unfortunate in Ian, I think there was some fortunate that was left, and some of the cottages that we see that did survive from Ian, it still preserves some of that history that has made Fort Myers Beach what it's been for decades. In order to protect that, you've got to become more resilient. You've got to build stronger. You've got to look at construction. You've got to look at coastal protection systems. You've got to look at seawalls. You got to look at things that are going to elevate you to protect you against future storms. When you do that, you'll get more people to build. When you get more people to build, then you'll be able to start getting the businesses that want to come back. But it's important to note that although we could have these nodes, and I think that's a great idea because that's what the comp plan tells you, is to spread people out. The bigger the building, the more expensive it is, the more the rent costs. If you don't have the people here to support those businesses, doesn't matter if it's a small mom and pop or if it's a Kinko's. If they can't afford the rent because there's not enough people coming there, they're not going to stay there. And when you're building these buildings that are more resilient, they cost much more money, which means that rent costs more. There's a reason we don't have a liquor store on the island. We don't have enough people to support it, and the rents are too high. It's that simple. It's economics 101. Until we can get that paradigm to shift to where we can support.
Thank you, Dan. Man, save it for Sunday, man, will you? I never have to cut the guy off on Sunday. All right.
I get the whammy button.
Do we have a question from Sam? Wait. We'll come back to you, Sam. Got a fresh questioner here.
Fresh questioner.
Yeah, Todd Capella, Bay Beach Lane, full-time resident. And assuming that the council doesn't come to consensus and stop the obscene proposal for the Red Coconut property, and that goes through, and we have 4 towers that are the highest buildings anywhere on the island by a wide margin, not just 1, 4. How do you propose saying no 6 months from now or a year from now when somebody else comes in and says, oh, I want to build 25 stories. I want to build 30 stories. I want to build 40 stories. You've already set a precedent that you're willing to accept any obscene money grab that's put in front of you to ruin the vibe of this island. How do you propose to say no to somebody in the future?
Scott, you're first.
I know.
Whoops. You're good now.
So we said no to a 10-story building just 2 weeks before. Every project is different. So I don't think there's a precedent. There was a precedent when people kept saying there's.
Hold on, Scott. Start them over. Can you just share mics with Greg for a moment? I don't know what's going on there, but I want to make sure you can be heard from the beginning.
Testing.
Oh, all right.
Well, Todd, that's a great question. People keep asking about precedent. If we had a precedent with Margaritaville, if somebody had a 10-acre lot, that precedent would have been 50 units per acre. It would have been 500 rooms. So every project is different. At least I myself, and I know Jim and Dan do the same thing. We look at every project differently. There's a lot of components. There's Florida area ratio. There's height. There's density. So I don't think there's a precedent. I don't think we're going to lose the vibe. I understand people don't like how high it is. I get it. But there's other factors involved in our decision making.
Todd, I'd say a couple things. Number one, this concept of precedent. We've I've spent an hour with our town attorney who has 50 years of municipal law experience. She tells me definitively that there is no legal precedent set when you approve a particular project. I would also want to address this narrative that somehow we're just a rubber stamp for development. The first three major projects that came before the town council, Beach Baptist, Moss Marine, and Pink Shell, the town council said no. I mean, in essence, it never made it through the LPA, never made it to the council because we listened to the people and we heard the concerns about those individual projects. So back to the point that we look at each of these projects individually. They all have their own unique circumstances. I don't believe, in fact, I know there's no legal precedent being set. I know there's a concern about it, and I understand that concern, but each project's going to have its own unique cost-benefit analysis, and we look at that information in depth. I listen to all the input. I try to think about what's best for the island. I don't have any other motive except trying to do what's best for Fort Myers Beach, and there's a lot to it. I wish I could talk more about the Seagate process, but I just can't until it's over, but I appreciate the question.
Well, for me, it's easy. I've shown that I'm not a rubber stamp, right? I mean, I'll vote no. For me, I look at a project. Each one is a little bit different. I mean, we gave a little bit more height to the whale, right? The cottage, things like that, things that make sense. I'm all about pro-development, 100% pro-development, but it has to make sense. If we were on a different island, I would have a different mindset. If you go by what you were elected to do, and that's look at the Comp Plan and Land Development Code, the way it's currently written, and follow it and see if it meets the vision. Does that mean it's 3 stories, 1 story, whatever it is? As long as it meets the vision, as long as it meets the culture. You look across this room, this is what makes Fort Myers Beach, Fort Myers Beach. Nobody knows who's rich. Nobody knows who's poor. We're all wearing flip-flop shorts and T-shirts. And after we're done, we may not agree, but we're all going to say, hey, how you doing? Have a glass of water or beer or a glass of wine with Betty Simpson. You never know. So that's what makes Fort Myers Beach. So as long as we can protect that, the buildings are going to be stronger. They're going to be more resilient. But it's what you put inside. If people are allowed to come in and frequent the place, that's the vibe. I'm trying not to go over a minute.
You did again. So Greg, I'm not sure it's going to work, but give it a shot.
Yeah, test 1, 2.
Okay.
Awesome, good. I have no problem telling somebody no. I tell people no every day. It's part of what I do in my business. Strong leaders have the ability to say no. I'm also a man of my word. When I say something, I mean it, and I'm going to do it. Okay. Everybody on the town council, everybody in the LPA said we want to stick to the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code. Now I understand that there are deviations from that, but who here thinks that a massive 17-story tower is consistent with our comprehensive plan? I've read it. Anybody else here think that's consistent with our comprehensive plan? I don't think there's a resident, maybe 1 or 2. It's a very hard stretch for me, and it upsets me because that's what you were told. You were told that we're going to do our best to stick to the comprehensive plan. That's not what's happening. I'm not shy about it. I was really trying to come here not to get wound up, but I'm wound up. And we need to have development, but we got to come in this, it can't come like, here's this massive thing. And we just go, oh yeah, please. Because that's not what we need to do.
We have a question from the other side of the room, but one thing is for sure, we know Greg's not getting a Christmas card from Matt Price.
I'm sending him one.
All right.
Hello, my name is Penny and I'm from Casa Marina, so back on Bay Beach Lane. If you could say one thing that would convince people from leaving, because after Ian and then we just got our feet under us and then these two. And I'll tell you, just in Casa Marina, a number of people I have heard that are selling their places to move more inland. So if you could give them one good reason to stay, because I'm one of those people considering it, what would you say? Convince everybody thinking about it.
Good question. Thank you. Jim, you're first.
All right. I'm going to use my full 60 seconds to say my one thing. Fort Myers Beach is on the move. We've got beach renourishment, a $40 million beach renourishment program going from the north end of the island that will be to the south end of the island, hopefully before February. We've got brand new street lights going up and down Estero Boulevard as well as the side streets as well. Things are happening. We've got a brand new South Bridge that's being built. That's going to be spectacular. It's going to be so easy to take your bike over to Lovers Key Park, walk over there. It was extremely difficult with the fishermen folks on the bridge before. Now it's going to be hopefully a wonderful avenue to Lovers Key Park, which is a great asset for our area. The North Bridge is being refurbished. Is that going to solve all of our problems? No, but it should make things better on the North Bridge. We're seeing I'm running out of time, but I live on Bay Beach as well. And I will tell you this, that the meatball sandwich from New York Pizza and Pasta that's coming into Santini Plaza is spectacular. They've already gutted the building. They're moving quick. Anita's back. Santini Plaza will be back soon. And hopefully we'll have some establishments on the beach as well that could we create that vibe that we all enjoy.
I wish I could count the number of words you just got in that minute, because that was more than ever before, Jim. Dan, you're up.
Well, for me, it's faith, hope, and resiliency. If we can go through what we've gone through in the last 4 years between a worldwide pandemic, 5 hurricanes, and still want to be here today and have discussions about what we want the future of this island to look like, to me, that's all I need. I know we've got enough hope. I know we've got enough good people on this island. We've got people coming in every day. Yes, we're going to unfortunately lose a few people, but every book has a chapter, right? We're in our next chapter of the town of Fort Myers Beach. Personally, I want to see how it ends. I want to see how this chapter ends and how the next one begins. And I think that we've shown over the last 2 years that not only can we take a good punch, we'll take 2, we'll take 3. It may wobble us, and we may want to give up, but we're still going to come back fighting. And there's a reason. It's a 7-mile paradise. There's a reason we all moved here. We can walk a half a mile across the street at the farthest and watch that sunset every single day. Not everybody gets to do that.
All right.
So am I on? So, ma'am, your story hits me in the feels. It does. Okay, but I'm sorry, but life on the island's hard right now. It is. My life, my friend's life has changed, not for the better. The things I used to do, I used to be able to go fishing 3 times a week with my boat. I don't have a boat anymore. I used to, all the things that I did when living here on the island, I don't get to do anymore. And it's a struggle trying to rebuild my house. It's hard. Hard times don't last. Take a walk, go to the beach, grab a glass of wine, sit down, watch the sunset. That's the best advice I can give to you and your neighbors. Realize the beautiful place you live. It's worth fighting for. It's worth staying here. It really is. I know it's trying, but again, bad times don't last forever. This is a very challenging time, and it is challenging for a lot of people. I get it. I think in the end, it'll be worth it. And I would hate to see you go.
Scott?
Does this work? Hey, it does. I would say, we've all gone through those thoughts right now, but it's the hope and it's the vibe of this island. We have a unique opportunity to rebuild paradise. We already have paradise. We have the dolphins. We've got fantastic sea life, fishing. We've got everything a place needs. We just need to have hope that we can get where we were and even better.
All right. Sam, before we get to your question, the vice mayor mentioned the beach renourishment. If anyone's interested, our walk around at 8 o'clock tomorrow will be with Chad. He's going to give us an update on the beach renourishment, which is at Times Square right now. So they're moving. They've got interrupted by 2 storms, but they are moving along. Dan, the next question we start with you is, what do you say to people who say that the town council is not following the comp plan?
Oh, well, I mean, I can't speak for my other council members, but I know we've all read it. The comp plan is an interpretation. Doesn't mean that I'm trying to follow it. I try to balance everything that comes before us off of what I believe the vision was when they wrote the comp plan. Now, it may not be the same going forward. We're going through a comp plan amendment. Everyone in the public is going to have a chance to speak and weigh in on that. I feel that we are following the comp plan. We may not all agree on how it gets applied. There are some vagueness in there that leaves the door open for development. And it's our job to push back on that, to make sure that it meets the vibe, it meets the consistency of the land development code and the comprehensive plan, because those are the backbones of our community. That's what this community was built on. That's the reason we incorporated. We can make some changes to it, but that's our starting gate.
So, Greg, the question has to be a little different for you. In your opinion, is the town council following the comp plan?
Well, I think I made that clear that I don't think they are. I don't think they're following the spirit of the comp plan. And I think if we continue to go on that road, Penny, I'm sorry. We continue to build large buildings like that. We're going to have more stories like Penny. It's just going to happen. And then we won't have a need for the town. That's the worst thing that could ever happen to our island. Just telling you flat out, people, you already hear rumblings of people saying we should go back to the county and those sorts of things because we're not following what the residents think we should be following when it comes to our comp plan. Does it need adjustment? Sure. Do we need to be flexible? Sure. What we're getting is not flexibility. My personal opinion. the more we can stay true to that, the more we're going to have less stories of you wanting to leave. And I don't want you to leave. Like I said, I mean that personally. I don't want you to leave. I want to see more people come here. I want to see more people make this place residents so we can have a town government. We can control our own destiny. We go back to the county, it will be the end of our island. We will not have an island. That it will be 100% tourist, and that's it. I mean, not that I have anything against tourists, but
thanks, Greg.
We'll have residents.
To answer your question, yes, we are following the comp plan. We went through this 5 or 6 years ago, maybe it was 7 years ago with Margaritaville. It was a very contentious time in our town's history. But in the end, we followed the comp plan. Our comp plan allows for Margaritaville. When people say follow the comp plan, I think they refer to other cities. I was fortunate enough to go to the Florida League of Cities meeting last week, and they're towns with comp plans that in this zone, you can build five floors, that's it. In this zone, 10 floors, that's it. Unfortunately, our comp plan allows for bigger development. So we are following the comp plan. Now, if we want to change it, that's a whole nother conversation. And I think the community needs to get involved when we have these comp plan discussions in January.
I would just say that our founders and our predecessors who put the original comp plan together devised a very clever comp plan dynamic where it allows, through the CPD process or the development agreement process, it allows for creativity and innovation. And post-Ian, we're going to need that. There are certain situations, and they're rare on this island, where we've got to be creative and we got to think outside the box. I don't think it's going to be pervasive throughout the island. There just isn't any locations that allow for that. But if you look at, there are some unique properties on this island that are going to require creative solutions. And the economics post-Ian are so much different. The land acquisition cost of capital, cost of construction, labor, complying with FEMA and the new state building codes, insurance costs. I mean, they're dramatic. So it changes the whole paradigm, and that we have to at least be thoughtful and creative in terms of, and need that flexibility, not just to throw height out willy-nilly, but there are situations that if we want to have a sense of urgency about our rebuild, we're going to have to think outside the box on occasion.
Just by applause in the audience here, how many people were in favor of the Seagate project as it was passed the other day? Applaud if you were. Applaud. Okay. How many people are opposed to the Seagate project? That's about a tie, right? Just kidding. So the next question is, let's see, we're back to Greg first. Do you believe that Margaritaville, a TPI, the amount of public benefit they offered up to the community, any of these other developers is anywhere close to offering the same kind of public benefit?
Am I on? No, absolutely not. Margaritaville TPI was put through the ringer. They donated land. They give discounts. They're a great community partner. I mean, our kids were supposed to have a fright night at Bay Oaks. They couldn't do it. Margaritaville opened their terrace to do it. They're a good community partner. They work well with us, but they were put through the ringer. These projects are rushed through 100%. I'm sorry, and I'm just going to disagree with you, Jim. I don't think just allowing two massive structures is being creative or innovative in any way whatsoever. It's what they proposed and it's what they got. That's not innovation. And I'm an innovator. That's what I do. And I have patents in my name. We're not Mexico Beach. We're not even close to it. We're not Matlacha. Well, that was brought up. Matlacha doesn't have a beach. Mexico City has one hotel open after 6 years. We have several. We have many restaurants open and many coming back. Those are not apt comparisons. We are not those. And so I kind of discount that. If you want to be innovative, let's really get innovative and find innovative solutions for Seagate, the development here. I would like to see Seagate do something there. They do beautiful work. They really do. But let's really get innovative.
Sorry, you're way over. Scott, you're up. Sorry.
What was the question again?
Do you believe that the other developers are offering the same amount of public benefit to Fort Myers Beach as TPI did in the end?
No, but everybody says Margaritaville went through the ringer. They went through the ringer after they got their thing passed. I mean, it was set 5-2 with the LPA, and it was unanimous on the town council. So to say they went through the ringer is not really true. They went through the ringer afterwards, and what they went through, no one should go through. every project's different. I mean, if I decide to build back my hotel, what public benefit can my little lot offer if I want a little bit more height? So every project's different. TPI did a great job, but you guys got to remember they by right, I think it was 150 units they could build back. They have 50 units per acre. So if we use the same standard and somebody accumulates some property, if it's a 4-acre parcel, they can get 200 rooms. If it's a 10-acre parcel, they can get 500 rooms. I don't think right now we want 300 units here, 500 units there. I'd rather see us have a bunch of boutique hotels spread
All
out.
right.
Spread out the
Everybody
density.
gets 1 minute and 5 seconds for this one, Jim.
Well, when I was running for office 4 years ago, I put on my campaign literature that the council voted 5-0 to support Margaritaville, and I was in strong support of coming together as an island and supporting Margaritaville. To sort of use Margaritaville process as the model, I think is a disaster. Poor Tom, I think it's aged him prematurely and his family, and I don't think that should be the model at all. I think we should have a new model that's much more streamlined, much more efficient. We can still demand concessions, but to put anyone through what they went through and the length that it took, I mean, my goodness, it's been 2 years since the storm. I don't want to be irrational or not be thoughtful, but we need to have a sense of urgency about this rebuild. I mean, people are getting older. People are leaving this island. We need to just move forward, and doesn't mean recklessly, but we have to have a process and I think we have had a process that's been extremely thoughtful. We've had tremendous public input, but we're moving, and we've got to move this island forward, or we're going to stagnate, and we're going to lose more folks, and people are going to become more disenchanted. So I don't.
Thank you.
I understand your question, Ed, but I don't think it's in 60 seconds we could give it due justice.
Well, you had 70 seconds there.
I appreciate
Jim. Come on now. Dan.
Well, I think it's unfair to compare what Margaritaville had to go through and what they gave up for public benefit versus we haven't gone through entire process of a developer yet. We've gone through one hearing for a developer, but we haven't gone through an entire thing. So we really don't know what they're going to offer and what ultimately would be approved or denied based on what Margaritaville gave. I think what's important is that whatever it is, it has to be something that's tangible. You look at what they did give. It was a parking lot that generates revenue for the town. That's a tangible thing that goes into perpetuity, right? So things like that are important. I think to be able to drive that, just today I was working with the attorney and how can we come up, we're talking a lot about public benefit. How can we do something that's tangible and is forever? And what I mean by that, is it through impact fees? Is it through some other fees where if you want something more, but it still meets the comp plan and land development code, that you pay into something that when we're gone, someone down the road can use to, because things are going to change. What we need today is going to change 5 years from now and 10 years from now. Any of these developments that get approved, we're not going to see the ribbons cut for 5 years anyway. So what the needs are going to be 5 years from now are going to be different than what they are today.
Perfect landing right there. So please,
cut me off.
I didn't cut you off. Please try and not avoid the question if you can, because I know you're going to say it's all relative or every project is different. But what? Oh, sorry. I'll get this one in, then I'll stop. So we're with Scott is first. What are your top three? If you weren't on the council and you had a chance to fill out a survey, what would be your top 3 public benefits?
A beach bar, a view corridor, and donating land back for green space.
Okay. Jim.
Yeah, I don't think I can do as well as Scott on that because I think those public benefits depend on, I know you hate this, Ed, but details do matter in this, and that the project on the south end is going to be different than the project on the north end. The project on Mid-Island, it's going to be different if it's on the Gulf side, if it's going to be on the Bay side.
Fair enough. You live on the south end, so let's go with the south end.
All right. There's a situation on the south end now where the economics make it extremely difficult for within the current comp plan, not utilizing the CPD or the development agreement, to have a place where you can go on the Gulf, where you can have a restaurant, a hotel. There are no hotels on the south side. You can have a tiki bar. You can watch the sunset. You can put your toes in the sand, listen to live music, have dinner, cool beverage, beach access, restroom. It doesn't exist. And the economics are such where without some additional help, it will never exist. It's easy to say no to everything, but it's a lot harder to roll up your sleeves and solve problems. And I think that's what we need to do on the south end to at least touch on that particular example.
Infrastructure, and flexibility. You can have the most beautiful development on the planet. If you can't flush your toilet, you can't take a shower, you can't get to it, or your backyard's flooded, it doesn't really matter. So infrastructure to me is by far number one. Flexibility goes back to what my last answer was, finding a way to be able to put something into a fund, to be able to purchase property, to be able to create view corridors, to be able to do things that the town maybe doesn't have the funding to do now, whether it's through impact fees, which we're working on, whether it's through some other creative thing that's a legal way to do it, to let people know that if you're going to pay in, we want to make sure that what we're building back here through seawalls, coastal protection systems, all this stuff we talked about over the last hour, that's something sustainable. That's something that will be here long after we're gone.
Am I on? Good. Top three public benefits from here off the top of my head. One would be beachside land donated to the town for parks and green space into perpetuity. They can all do it. They don't want to do it. It's very valuable. But the more beachside land the town can own that was given to them as a public benefit, I think that's huge. Second, donation into a fund that we can use for things like infrastructure and those sorts of things to help with that. Third would be, they're going to pay impact fees. We need to get those done. But yeah, infrastructure is going to be huge for our island. I agree with Dan. He says infrastructure. He's not wrong. We need it on the island. And that's a huge public benefit. I will add one to say that I also think a public benefit is being respectful to our community and trying to adhere to the codes that we have. I really believe that's a public benefit. You come with a project that says, hey, listen, I may need a little bit more, but I'm really trying hard to stay within the vision of your comprehensive plan. That's a public benefit. And that's another big one for me.
All right. We do have a question from the audience.
Hi, my name is Nancy Lumpkins, and I live on the beach across from the old Tops, or the old town close to. Anyway, I was wondering how the berms made out during the last couple hurricanes. To me, the ones around me, they seem to be gone, even before Helene, with a couple storms. And I was wondering, I got my house lifted in 2014. And I was one of the cottages built in the 70s. And I got it lifted. And during Ian, I lost the bottom, door, the bottom area. The breakaway walls went down and everything in there went away. But so I got water in my house during Helene, and then even more in Milton. A lot more sand is coming up from the beach now into the driveway and into Gulf Beach Road. We can't even drive. The post office guy can't drive down Gulf Beach Road because there's a lot of sand built up there. But I was wondering how the berms made out, and also, is there anything else as a homeowner? I'm sure the big developments can do something maybe in the future to protect the property from the sand coming in, but is there anything homeowners can do to protect their property from sand?
Sign the easement. Jim, I think you're first on this.
With respect to the emergency berm, it isn't, it is the be all end all, but it has been extremely helpful in protecting properties. I think Ed was joking about it, but he's absolutely right. Everyone on the beach would really be helpful if they signed the easement so we could get that emergency berm across the beach. As they do the renourishment, it's a $40 million renourishment project. The town, I think, put in about $2 million and leveraged $38 million from state and federal sources, and county as well. So, it's really a revolutionary dynamic. So when they do the renourishment, it's my understanding that they're going to restock the emergency berm as well. The challenge we've had is that because we just keep getting pounded with these hurricanes, we've not been able to plant on the emergency berms. So hopefully we'll have enough time between hurricanes that after the new renourishment is done, the emergency berms are done, we could begin the plantings on the emergency berms, which will help retain some of that sand. And it won't prevent the problem, but it'll hopefully slow some of that sand from being shifted in a storm towards the rest of the island. So it's a challenge. There is no ultimate solution, but that emergency berm is so much. The engineer always tells us, Mike Poff, he says, listen, what would happen if you didn't have the emergency berm? How much worse would it have been? And so it is costly. We haven't done a beach renourishment in a number of years.
Thank you,
So
Jim.
it's overdue. Yep.
Dan?
Well, I can't agree with Jim more. I would say it almost exactly. Emergency berm is just that. It was an emergency berm. It was put there to protect us against any kind of high floods, any high tides, anything like that. It did what it was supposed to do when we got hit with Debbie. It blocked as much of it as it could. Where there was a break in the dam where people didn't side the easement, you saw worse flooding there, and it erodes that berm. Now that we get 2 more hurricanes that come by and wipe it all out, all that sand, as you see, is across the street from your home, and it's also where the new town hall is. There's a big pile down at Lover's Key. It's being sifted. It's going to be put back out there. If you haven't had a chance to go out and look at the beach renourishment that is north of the pier right now, I suggest you go do it. It is massive improvement. That is certainly going to help. The coastal protection system that we've talked about, I think island-wide, we should look at that, not just in the downtown district, but island-wide. I think that will help protect us. When you're getting 8-foot storm surges, I don't know that there's anything that's going to 100% protect you, even if you had a coastal protection system. So we live on a barrier island, but we just need a break from Mother Nature.
Yep.
A decade, 2 decades, whatever, please.
Greg.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with both Jim and Dan more. The emergency berm we did what it was supposed to. I went out when Idalia came through, which was the first big storm after Ian, and stood on the berm and watched the water come right up to the berm and basically stop. And I think if that berm wasn't there, we had had storm surge across the island again. After the last few, it's gone. Like the berm is not there anymore. It's just flat beach, right? Let's just be honest. I mean, it did its job, but the beach is, like Jim said, the beach is being renourished. They're going to put that berm in. It has to have time to be planted to be able to stay. And that will help. So we need to renourish the beach. We need to have the berm back. It needs to be planted. We're kidding ourselves if we think the island will never flood over again. It's going to happen. And we just have to understand that. That's part of living on the barrier island. Again, the more we can build back resilient, the more we can understand that's going to happen, prepare for it. When Milton came through, if Ian never happened, Milton would have been the worst thing this island ever. And Milton came through, yeah, it was bad, but people are like, it's not Ian. I'll clean them up. I'll get rid of some stuff, and I'm good.
Thank you, Greg. Scott.
In interest of time, I'm going to agree with everyone. But the one thing we need to do is when we're putting those berms down, and property owners, and I understand property rights, when they say they're not going to sign off on it and there's going to be a gap in that berm, we need to put the sand forward of their property and protect everybody, because we saw houses get clobbered on this side of the beach. And I understand property rights, but you're screwing your neighbors. So that's all I.
Okay.
Dad.
By a show of hands, who's voted already? Oh, all right. There's still some people that haven't voted yet. All right. Sam, I think we're going to give you the last question. If you can keep it to one question and not a filibuster.
I'm going to try. 3 of you have already been briefed. Greg, it'll be easy. Okay. The 4 words that no one believes when I talk to everyone is Meyer side is not precedent. And my question at the end of this is going to be, do you believe 100%? I know the attorney has told you this. Do you believe 100% and you're willing to bet this island on it that she is correct? Because if she's not, if we get Meyer side density and more density, less parking on the first 20 projects, there will not be infrastructure. There'll be a moratorium, and you will meet all those lawyers that I'm telling you about, because it will no longer be a, so do you believe 100% that her statement that Meyer side is not precedent, even though there's no exceptions?
Thank you. Dan, you're first.
Well, I think she's a lawyer. So if she tells us legally that it doesn't, I have to believe her. She's our counsel. That doesn't mean that it's not going to change someone's mind, Sam. It doesn't mean someone's not going to say, look what Meyer side got, or look what this development got, or look what that development got. And we're going to press our luck and see how much we can get, knowing that we think we have something. I think if that's what you're kind of getting at precedent, I think that we'd be naive to say people aren't going to do that. A developer's job is to come in and get as much as they can and negotiate down to what they can live with. At some point, it becomes financially where it's not a project. So do I think people are going to come in? Sure. And ask for it. Do I think it's a legal precedent? Our attorney has told us no. Doesn't mean that you don't have to look at the project. Density to me is one of the biggest things that I have an issue with. Density adds to traffic. Density adds to infrastructure problems. Density adds to all the things that we don't like to see on the island, that everybody complains and emails us about. Density does that. That's a tangible thing that you can say, that's more people coming, that's more toilets flushing, that's more showers, that's all those things. That's what density does.
Thank you. I love doing that to you. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I'm not an attorney, so I can't opine on whether she's correct or not. We'll find out, I bet. Just because it's not a legal precedent doesn't mean that someone's not going to litigate. And so when it's litigated, we'll find out. And it probably will happen, unfortunately. But I'm not confident that I mean, she's an attorney, and I'm going to tend to agree that it's probably not a legal precedent. But you watch Myerscough like I did. Who do they use as the example? Margaritaville. Margaritaville got this, and they're all going to do that, right? They're all going to say, well, you gave him this. And because that's the sense of fairness that we have as a society. Again, we have to be careful with that. Even though it's not a legal precedent, it's really hard to tell someone no when you just said yes to something that's very, very massive.
Scott.
I've answered the precedent question. So I'm glad you brought up traffic or parking, because I personally feel that our LDC it's ridiculous that we're trying to decrease traffic, but we're making people have more parking lots. It's absolutely insane. And it's even more insane for restaurants. Every other town in the world, they calculate the seating area. Our town calculates the entire restaurant. So you're penalized for having a real great kitchen. Just doesn't make any sense. I think the private sector figures out parking. I think if you don't have enough parking, people won't go to your place. We should stay out of the parking game.
Sam, I can't believe you're really asking me if I believe an attorney 100%. I mean, I don't think that's a fair question. But I do respect our town council. We have an excellent town council. We've got excellent town leadership. The Myerside one, I mean, just because I don't want to be redundant. The Myerside one was a tough one. You know, they have a health and wellness emphasis for their retail space on the first floor, with Kia Stero vacant and Sea Grape struggling. Having some additional retail space in that area is really intriguing, particularly if they can have a doctor or a dentist or a physical therapist in there. I think that's the kind of quality of life stuff that the island needs. Is it guaranteed that they'll do that? No, that's what made it difficult. Their request for additional density, I thought, was modest in return for the possibility of a doc, a dentist, or a physical therapist. I thought it was worth taking the risk. So that was a tough one. It was a close one. But that's the kind of each one of these projects is going to get that kind of a hard look. And I'm hoping our attorney's correct. Certainly anybody can use it rhetorically in an argument, but whether that has legal standing or not, it sounds doubtful at this point, but certainly we'll see.
1 minute closing argument. Dan, you're first.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Thanks, Ed, for hosting. Thank you, Fresh Catch and Junkanoo, for having us here. There is, it's coming around the corner, right? I'm not going to relitigate everything that we've already talked about. I'm going to stand on my last 4 years and 8 months of service. We've gone through a worldwide pandemic. We've gone through 5 storms. I've tried to lead with an open mind. I've tried to listen. I've tried to give direction where I can. We always haven't agreed, but at least we've walked away and agreed to disagree, and we're cordial, and we come back and we fight the next fight. I believe in leading by example. I believe if you do that and you listen, I think you will have a good outcome that everyone can live with for decades to come. So November 5th, this coming Tuesday, I ask you for your vote to continue the next 4 years to do what I've done the last almost 5 years.
Great. Greg?
Oh, me? No, yeah. Thank you all for coming. And again, thanks, Fresh Cats, for hosting us. I don't know if I'm going to thank Ed or not, but listen, I'm not a politician, right? I'm a resident, and these guys are all residents too, but political is not my aspirations. I want to see our island come back. I want to see our island come back the right way. I don't think we need to rush through it. I don't think there's this impetus we're going to stagnate. I don't believe in any of that. I believe in our island, and I believe in our residents, and I have zero fear. Zero. And that's what you want from a leader. If you're afraid, you do not make good decisions. And that's just human nature. I'm not scared. I believe in our island. I believe in all of you. And I respectfully ask for your vote so we can move this town forward the way that the residents want to see and have our paradise. We can have our cake and eat it too. We can. But we got to go about it smart, okay, and innovative. I do agree with that. And that's what I promise to do my best for you guys to do that, if you're so kind to give me your vote.
Scott.
I want to thank everybody for coming, especially the people that have already voted. It's great that you voted, but you want to hear what we have to say so you can tell your friends and neighbors. And it's fantastic that 2/3 of our island has already voted. That says something. So stay engaged. Betty, thank you for being here. Still got some wine left. let me tell you one little other tidbit about myself. I was captain of my rugby team for a number of years. And when my theory was when you get knocked down, you get up and you knock them back. I'm not sure getting knocked down 3 times and getting stomped on is what to do. But if you do that, and what happened to us, we got to get up again. We got to have hope. We got to move on. I really would ask for your vote on Tuesday. If you've already voted for me, thank you. If you hadn't, if I'm lucky enough to win, I'm still going to represent you. And I'm my cell phone's always on, and I always answer my emails, because I truly believe, just like tonight, you being here, that I respect your time. So thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, just a slight reminder, you have 60 seconds.
I'm running again because I believe public service is a calling. I believe I work for you, not the other way around. I will continue a vision of a limited government based upon civility, common sense, and servant leadership. My philosophy is such where I'm not part of a particular faction on this island. I try to listen to everybody. I try to bring people together. Then I try to roll up my sleeves and solve problems. It's been an honor and privilege to serve you these last 4 years. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
31 seconds.
Wow. I'm so glad I don't have to vote on Fort Myers Beach. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to our 4 candidates. Again, it's a fresh catch. We appreciate everybody coming out. It's such a nice night out. Please stick around and have some more drinks or food, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock at Margaritaville, everybody. Thank you all. Have a great night.